Is this house haunted? After the first court case about ghosts since the Middle Ages, a judge said no. But was he right? The witnesses will be giving their story, and the house itself will be giving up some of its secrets. This is the Reverend Peter Mockford, the vicar of Blurton in Stoke-on-Trent. He also has another job, which he rarely reveals. He's what might be described as a Church of England ghostbuster.
I'm a member of the diocesan team that deals with kind of psychic and paranormal phenomena. The Church has been dealing with them for kind of hundreds and hundreds of years. And we've certainly not trumpeted the fact that we are, but the reality is that we've had to deal with them down the years. I do think that although it's very difficult to say, to try and convince people, in fact, I don't particularly want to convince people in some ways, because I don't think you can in that sense. But I think people, when they do experience things, often get very, very frightened, and particularly in our society, because we're so unused to it. Whereas 400 years ago, that would be much less the case.
The Church, after those centuries of experience, accepts that most ghosts are in the mind or in the plumbing. But some experiences are not the product of imagination or caused by loose pipes.
You have what's called psychic phenomena, which is phenomena that take place, like poltergeist activity, which seems to be due mainly to people having repressed emotions. You find it most commonly with teenagers, for example, who have perhaps undergone a bereavement and keep all this kind of sadness locked inside, and then you start getting phenomena like things dropping off walls or that kind of thing. There is another kind of phenomena whereby what I would call video replay phenomena, whereby you always see the lady in white coming down the stairs. And some people, always see the same lady going in the same place. And that seems to be more like a kind of an event that's taken place in the building. There's a third kind of phenomena where people generate the phenomena by getting involved, very foolishly in my view, in things like kind of Ouija boards and seances and with mediums and so on. And that can certainly generate phenomena. And there's the fourth kind of phenomena, which seems to be related perhaps to a tragedy or something that's taken place in the house, and that for some reason you have a genuine human spirit that seems to be hanging around the place for some reason or another.
The Reverend Mockford has no doubt that what happened here was caused by a phenomena from Category 4. Spirits that have not moved on. The unquiet dead. Andrew and Josie Smith are about to go round to the cottage for the first time since they left, claiming they've been driven out by at least one spirit. Unquiet, unrelenting, and dangerous. I'd met them at their new home and sanctuary in Burton. I gather that very soon after you moved in, within a matter of weeks in fact, strange things started to happen.
Yeah, that's right. I noticed strange smells that I couldn't explain. I moved furniture, cleaned with disinfectant, did the works, and they still kept appearing. And then I started to get heavy weights pinning me to the bed, and I was in bed at night, and I couldn't move.
Now let me just get this straight. You're lying in bed, and suddenly you feel something very heavy pressing down upon you.
Yeah, that's right. It's this really dead weight. I just couldn't move at all.
The best way to describe it is it's a weight that it's the same pressure on the tip of your nose as it is on your eyeball. You know, it's not like a flat weight, it's like a bag of water kind of weight. Every inch of your face would be pushed down with the same pressure.
On one occasion, the minutes of me falling asleep, I was being throttled. My mouth was full of cotton. I could really taste this old fusty cotton. It was like it was bulging. And my throat was being gripped and I was being shaken like that. and I was trying to scream and there was no noise coming out. And it was my legs knocking against Andrew that woke him up.
Although you couldn't see anybody there, there was nothing there, you just felt all the wind. It's like all the air in the room was sucked out of the room and it went back upstairs. And as it went upstairs, there was an almighty groan, a really loud groan, and we just grabbed the kids and left the house.
Andrew and Josie thought they'd found the perfect family home when they bought Lowe's cottage. The ground floor looked over a quiet lane at the front, while the first floor was level, with a large garden at the back. It was an ideal location in the village of Upper Mayfield. The village, although once an important resting place for travellers, is now bypassed by traffic. It looks down on the River Dove by the border between Staffordshire and Derbyshire near Ashbourne. Between the moorlands and the Peak District, it's an area more renowned for tranquility than paranormal activity, although Lowe's Cottage does have a few associations with the macabre. Lowe's is the ancient word for a burial mound, and the cottage is adjacent to Gallows Tree Lane.
Andrew was working away and just got Stephen at home at the time. Lindsay had gone to stay with friends.
These are your children?
Yeah, it's his son. He was 3 at the time, and it was about 7:30 in the morning. I was half awake, half asleep, and I felt my body jerk down and something tight coming around my throat. It was like a rope. It felt like a rope dragging underneath my chin, upwards like that, and I could hear myself choking. I really couldn't stop it. I couldn't move again, and again that didn't stop until Stephen opened my eye for me. This frightened him. He was really frightened of me for a few days after that.
And I gather that wasn't the only strange incident in the night.
I was lying in bed one night, I was fully awake, and the duvet just started to lift up, and then my nightdress started to slide up my leg.
Can I just pause you there? You're fully awake, and you see the duvet rise and sense your nightie slipping up your leg. Now, what's running through your head when that's happening?
Well, I was just stunned. I thought it's just another thing. I constantly lived on the edge, wondering what was going to happen next.
Now, I don't want to appear flippant, but I'm sure people listening to that story will say, Josie, it was your husband.
Yeah. Oh, no, I mean, I can fully understand people thinking that. It's a lot to take in, it's a lot to take on board, but I can think of better things to do than make things up like that. We've got a life.
How do you feel about the prospect of going back there?
It's remembering everything. It's like when you leave here today, it's completely drained me again. It's so hard remembering it all and bringing it all back. And it's just, sorry. Let me get it. It's about 8 o'clock one evening, and I saw a young girl, teenager, walk across the room and disappear into the wall. I actually went outside to see if there was anybody there, and there was nobody there. It wasn't until I came back in and realised that the type of dress she was wearing, it couldn't have possibly been anybody, because it was a 19th century dress with the bodice and the skirt.
The majority of the cases I was with another clergy person, and we talked to the Smiths at length, both separately and individually, over those 5 visits. And it seemed that what they were actually relating was genuine.
You sit down and you feel all the pins and needles and your hair standing up on one arm, just where it's as if it's doing its daily routine, walking around,
It would sit at the side of you, wouldn't it?
Yeah. You could actually be in an armchair and it'd be sitting on you.
Sitting on your knee.
Yeah. That's the fire that it nearly put out the coal fire at the back there. It went from being a roaring hot fire to black within the space of about a second.
It was just after I'd closed my eyes that I was throttled. down here.
I would say that's possible. I would say, but the reason why I would say it's possible is not because of simply Josie Smith's testimony, but because we've come across other instances where people actually describe similar things.
The vicar actually put his hand on this wall and he said his prayer and the bowl started running with water. It was all the same, it was right the way across, from top to bottom, just equal running, just like clear water.
The wall was very wet, and that was an upstairs wall. And certainly there were areas of the house where the temperatures seemed much colder. I think the difficulty with evaluating these experiences, though, is because they are subjective. And that's the real difficulty. You know, if you could pinpoint it, photograph it, analyse it there and then, you know, in some ways that would be evidence that stood up much better. But yes, certainly those experiences I had in that cottage.
Be lying there like that, and it would just sort of rise like that. And you know, there was nothing, you couldn't physically see anything there, but it was just lifted up and like that. I could see it sort of move my nightdress. It was like a violation.
Whether you say those instances are kind of serious incidences or whether they're kind of flights of the imagination, I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, I mean, we've come across similar things.
Used to enjoy every minute of living up here.
We had a happy childhood, both myself and my sister.
Sue Melbourne and her sister grew up and lived here for 20 years.
There used to be a wall here, and you used to be able to get round here and under the stairs, and we used to be able to hide there when we were kids, playing hide and seek.
The two sisters inherited the cottage when their father died in 1993.
Front room. There used to be a big black piano here that my mum used to play. Dad used to sit over there on the chair. We used to have an old mantle, gas mantle up there. My dad used to like when the thunderstorms came and knocked the electricity off.
They were happy to sell their former home to the Smiths. A young family would once again be returning to the cottage.
This is all new. Just one big bedroom here when we were kids. It used to be overcrowded with dolls' prams, dolls' cots, dolls, teddies. Lots of happy memories.
There was one problem. The Smiths didn't have enough money for a deposit, so they offered £1,000 and another £3,000 over 3 years.
We thought that they'd pay up the full amount on the 3rd anniversary, but they didn't. A couple of weeks later, I decided to ring them, and I had the shock of my life. Mrs. Smith said that they wasn't going to pay the money because the house was haunted, and we knew it was haunted when we sold it to them. By which time I was getting a little worked up, so I decided to put the phone down on her and just sat there with my mouth open.
The dispute took them to Derby County Court. A court case about ghosts is one thing. When the phantom is a sex fiend, a sensation's guaranteed. The Smiths lost both their dignity and the case.
The Smiths had convinced, though, 2 solicitors, to my knowledge, who felt there was enough in the case to keep the papers moving forward. They'd convinced a pre-trial judge that it ought to come to trial, and there was enough evidence for that to happen. Now, the fact that the actual trial judge was not convinced is entirely his judgment.
We've had more trouble from all this. We've lost everything because of this. You know, I just wanted to lead a normal life. The effect it's had on me and my family is unbelievable. I don't go around making stories up. I can't stand people that do. I've always been honest and I've never cheated anybody.
There's nothing in that house. I mean, if there'd have been any danger in that house, then my mother and father wouldn't have bought it. If there'd have been any knowledge among the villagers of Upper Mayfield of the house being haunted, then both my mum and dad would have known about it, and they wouldn't have bought that house.
I've always told the truth about what happened in that house, and I'm going to keep on telling the truth.
In part 2, the new owner tells us if he's living with ghosts, and we go in search of a hidden chamber. This is Tim Chilton, the new owner of Lowe's Cottage. His original plans for renovating the property did not include knocking a hole into this wall on the ground floor. But originally he didn't suspect there might be a hidden chamber, and didn't know about the ghost story. He just knew the cottage had been repossessed.
The auction was at Birmingham, Solihull. It was only whilst it was taking place that I had the first inkling of it being haunted.
Now then, ladies and gentlemen, now what can you all tell me about Lot 60? Well, apparently, some say that it's haunted.
Do you believe in a supernatural?
Very, very much so.
Tim, a Nottingham schoolboy turned Finchley management consultant, was curious rather than nervous when he had problems with electrical equipment and extremely damp walls. As we found out, it's easy to jump to conclusions.
Having lived here for the best part of a year now, do you think it's possible it's haunted?
I certainly haven't experienced anything which makes me think it's adversely haunted. There's a Radio Derby reporter came, a BBC Radio Derby reporter, with what I looked like a proper pucker tape recorder, not just a little thing, which they had all checked out beforehand, which just failed. It wouldn't work inside the house. And what I have found recently is that I have strange pockets of damp, areas of damp, like hand, a little bit larger than a hand, sized pockets of damp, in an otherwise dry wall.
But with all due respect, Tim,
Can we just stop a minute?
is yours failing now as well? What seems to be the problem?
It's just it's interference.
Would you normally expect that kind of interference in this area?
Not at all. Not at all.
You've worked in here, in this area quite a lot.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I was noticing as I was conducting the interview there, you're shaking your head and you're moving around, seeing if it got any better if you moved around.
That's right. Yeah, I was just trying to see if anything was going to improve if I moved.
But it didn't.
No.
It's where we're
It's very funny, isn't it, that that happened.
It's gone.
It's gone now. But that happened just as we were talking about a similar experience with a reporter from Radio Derby.
Yes. It did cross my mind, which is why I let it go.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was important to leave it rather than stop it.
You see, there's a bit of me that says spooky. There's a bit of me that says, are we all getting neurotic about this? Are we now? You know,
That's exactly the
it's like reading stars, isn't it? You know, you make it true. You know, you've heard the background or you led a certain direction, and then you make it come true.
Mm.
You and your damp patches, the funny machines. Are we all sort of getting freaked out by this?
I can point to the damp patches.
No, I'm sure they're there,
Mm.
but why are they there?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, I'm not denying they're there. Sure they're there. Isn't it perfectly possible? Coincidence, maybe, that his machine's gone kaput.
Absolutely.
On the other hand,
Absolutely.
We later discovered the reasons for the interference were almost certainly technical, but there were other mysteries. This lintel suggests a doorway, but it doesn't lead anywhere. And this could be a window, but it doesn't look anywhere. And why does there seem to be an empty space behind this wall?
If I was to say, is there any part of this house which I felt less comfortable? It was there.
This is also the scene of the only claimed video evidence of ghostly goings-on. These are candles apparently moving of their own accord. They've been placed there by visiting ghost hunters from Ashbourne.
We was actually upstairs at this time, watching it on the TV monitors. I was actually literally petrified, really. I was in two minds if to come down or not. But when we finally did come down, there was cold spots in certain parts of the room. You could definitely feel some sort of a presence. When I calmed down a bit, I checked everything what we'd set up, so there was no way anybody could have got in or could have done anything.
It doesn't convince other paranormal investigators.
At the end of the investigation, after going through all the evidence, all the paperwork, all the video, all the camera work, all the tape recordings, all the thermometer readings, we spent a good few weeks after going through all that, analysing it all. We came up with absolutely nothing to suggest any paranormal activity or anomalous phenomena within
I think
this.
it'd be fair to say that, I mean, of all the cases that we've actually done, I think we'd have expected something based on what the clients were saying they were witnessing on the night, but as Andy's just said, we didn't have anything at all night.
There is, of course, only one way of finding what, if anything, is behind the wall. We also started researching the history of the cottage to find out more about the people who lived here.
It's very much a middling sort of house, and I think it was lived in by middling sort of people. That is, people who were working class, hard-working, but managed to keep themselves out of poverty, but never really made it to be wealthy. In terms of the 19th century, there was plenty of space for a family and lodgers and running a little business. People didn't require the same amount of space that we have today.
At Lichfield Records Office, we discovered that life at the cottage was usually cramped and often tragic. The title deed had told us the cottage was built 200 years ago by stonemason William Frith.
Right.
Church records reveal that while he lived in the cottage, he lost at least 2 children.
These are the record for 1835.
His daughter Lucy died aged 18.
Here, look. We have Lucy Frith.
About 8 o'clock one evening, and I saw a young girl, teenager, walk across the room, sort of disappear into the wall.
And his son William died aged 8.
Lindsay has seen a boy.
That's very good job.
That's her eldest daughter. He was about 14. He got like a leather jerking type thing on, shirt, trousers, got no shoes on, and he walked across her bedroom.
No records exist of what happened to Lucy and William, but dying young was all too common.
Childhood was a very dangerous time from all sorts of infectious diseases, even things like cholera or more mundane things like colds and fevers and goodness knows what, but also from just accidents around the place.
Knocking out the bricks had deepened rather than solved the mystery. Behind the brick wall was a carefully constructed dry stone wall. Both had been built at the same time.
That's strange.
But why 2 walls? And why one of dry stone? No one could give a clear answer.
It's not something I've seen before.
But it could still be hiding a void or chamber.
Still going back.
For now, at least, it will remain a mystery.
I am enthralled with it. I would think that hauntings are sort of sensitive to people. So Josie could have felt something which other people haven't felt. I've actually enjoyed the sort of wonderment of it.
We've dealt with this business for hundreds of years. We have a degree of expertise in this, and we actually want people not to be frightened, not to be scared with this. And if people are having problems, do see a local vicar.
Ghosts, hauntings, and poltergeists.
I've not only experienced these things, I do believe in them.
The living dead, voices from beyond.
We walked over and we opened up the door, and right when we opened up the door, everything just came to a halt. It was one of the strangest things I've ever experienced.
Where do they come from? What do they want?
Most ghosts don't realize that they have passed on. And that's why I believe that they're here, kind of reliving their last moments on Earth.
Are they real? or are they imaginary?
I think of it like being a TV screen. I think I can pick up channels.
The techniques, the technology, the high-tech search for the supernatural, real ghost hunters.